Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for watching. Here's a funny guitar to show you tonight. Not that the guitar is that funny, but I had an interesting little story about this model of guitar. Not this particular one, but I saw one of these in a pawn shop maybe 20 years ago. And it was red with the mint green guard. So it would have been the same model as this. And it said Vintage Series, which this does as well. But that little guitar sort of stood out to me visually. It really matched. I had at the time a Fender Japan 62 reissue that looked almost identical. It had the green guard, and the one I had was a photo flame in red. But I saw this little Jay Turser, I shouldn't say little, it's full size. I saw the Jay Turser at this pawn shop and it was red. So it really reminded me of my Fender Japan Strat. But I passed on it, and it was one of those ones I just sort of always wished I picked it up. I think it was 120 bucks at the time, and I didn't even really check it out. You know, I didn't take it down off the shelf or anything. So here we come 20 years later, and this is my chance to more or less check out that guitar, at least the same model. So let's get to it. Okay, here we go. So starting with the headstock, and this is probably what turned me off back in the day. But it doesn't look like a Strat, and it sort of does, but you know, it's different enough that it just looks a little off. I do like their logo. I think it's well done. Nice silk screen. It says Vintage Series. It looks like a little JT logo there, I think. Yeah, it is JT. So aesthetically, it is actually kind of pleasing. We don't think of this as an expensive name guitar, so it doesn't really look high-end. But it's pleasing, and they're using Kluson Deluxe style tuners, which is really nice to see. All in all, I think they did a good job of getting that 60s vibe long before the classic vibe Squiers did. See, the neck is a solid maple, and it's a really nice neck. I mean, for when this came out, there wasn't a lot of nice cheap guitars, I think. And this is a nice C carve, and I really like the gloss on it. It's nice poly. It doesn't feel as nice as a classic vibe, but it feels good. Now the frets are not finished quite as nice as a classic vibe, so it loses a point there. But overall, it does not feel really bad. Like, it's not hurting my fingers at all. There's just ever so slightly a little feel of a fret, you know. But it's a nice thick rosewood fingerboard. And nice dot inlays. I even like the skunk stripe on this, nice and dark. I think if the fingerboard was darker, this guitar would really actually look pretty nice. Moving on up, let's check the neck, and it fits in the pocket just about perfect. Considering the price range of this guitar, it's pretty impressive so far. There's the neck plate, just blank. And of course, it's a 4-bolt, replicating a 60s style. Now it is a 3-tone burst, and I notice it's solid wood. Now it's some kind of, I don't know if that would be ash. It's got quite a distinctive grain in there. I'll try to look it up. If I can find it, I'll flag it up here. Sort of a cheap looking back plate, but it does the job. And let's get to the front. So we see more of that grain right there. So quite a distinct grain in this guitar, whatever that is. I'm going to try to figure it out. And it's almost a vintage looking bridge, 6 screws, but it's not stamped saddles. It has more of a robust saddle. There's 3 pickups, and they are non-staggered pull, but they look nice and aged. And you can see a couple of the knobs have been replaced. But they feel good. Not a lot of drag, not too loose. Even the switch feels pretty good. That feels like a Fender switch. It is a 5-way. I can tell you this particular guitar, either this pickup is dead or the switch doesn't work. because there's no sound in that position. Luckily, I play Strat always in the second position with everything cranked, so that won't affect me. But it's worth note, you know, since we're looking at the quality of the guitar. Now, it is a really nice mint green pickguard. I think it's even a nicer tone than the current Classic Vibes. I have one right there. Let's check it out. So there's the Classic Vibe. And you can see it's just a little less subtle. It's more green. I really like this, but I gotta say the JT looks a little better. Let's go back to the Turser. Okay, so there's the Jay Turser. And it is probably a better mint green guard. 3-ply, pretty cool. So that's about all there is to look at on this guitar. It's nothing fancy by any means. It's a cheap guitar. It's more or less a little bit like a 62 reissue. You can't obviously call it a reissue, but sort of cool. So I thought we'd just give it a little listen, and thanks for watching. Cheers. Thank you.